How's it going, everyone? Laughing here, and today I'm going to be covering if you should buy, not buy, or wait to buy the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I have it broken up in a few different parts. If you're new to the Mass Effect franchise, if you're an old school fan coming back for more, and if you're on console or PC. So there are kind of a few differences and variables with that involved. So I'll be kind of covering all of that in this video. But before I get into it, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It goes a super long way to help the channel grow, and I would much appreciate it. If you don't know, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition actually has all three Mass Effect games in it. So Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, as well as all the DLC minus like 1 that just kind of got lost at time. It's had a lot of graphical improvements, as well as some gameplay mechanic improvements as well, some quality of life improvements, and of course a lot of graphical improvements, which is pretty cool. Of course, Mass Effect kind of follows Commander Shepard, which is kind of your own kind of character that you create throughout all three games as they face the Reaper threat that is coming to threaten and potentially destroy the galaxy. It's a lot of fun, really great story, great characters. But yeah, so that's just kind of what the Legendary Edition is all about. On this channel, I know I've been really kind of pumping up this game, building a lot of hype. I myself am super excited, but I do want to kind of pump the brakes on the hype train a little bit here, especially when it comes to making like a buying decision and me potentially influencing your buying decision. Definitely want to be as logical as possible, so I'm going to give you kind of my transparent opinion on kind of what's going on and kind of what I see, just in a general sense. So I do want to say that review copies did not go out for this game till yesterday, that being May 11th. So we're really not going to see any actual full reviews for at least a week. They gave reviewers less than 72 hours to review a 90-hour plus game, and I think 90 hours is being like really nice. Like, you are kind of speed running through all the games and not doing all the content, which I think a lot of reviewers aren't going to want to do. They're actually going to want to go through all the DLC and everything, so kind of keep that in mind. You're not going to see any game reviews for at least a good week, but you should start seeing impressions here and probably the next day, 3 days at most. So do kind of keep that in mind. If you are waiting for reviews or impressions, it might be a little bit. For me, the fact that they waited so long to send out the review copies is kind of a red flag for me. It does sound like they were kind of waiting for kind of the big day one patch to kind of go through, so reviewers can kind of get the best experience, which is understandable. But at the same time, if you are sending them a 90+ hour game review in less than 72 hours, I'm not a big fan of that. We've kind of seen that in the past, and there have been times where that was done on purpose to try to avoid bad reviews. So, word of caution with that. That being said, though, some general copies, the kind of copies that you and I would play, were actually released early yesterday in Europe, specifically for the PlayStation 4, not PC, not Xbox. So do keep that in mind. I was actually able to watch two different streams. One was on PS4, the other one was on PS5. On PS5, I just saw Mass Effect 1, but on the base PS4, I saw Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. I was able to ask each streamer one question, which was kind of cool. And I'll kind of cover that here in a second. My overall kind of impression, once again, these are on streams, so the streams are going to be compressed. On PS5 it was 1080, on base PS4 it was actually running at 720. Which isn't the best to see on stream, but it is what it is. On PS5, Mass Effect 1 just looked gorgeous. It looked fantastic. It just really made me even more excited for Friday. And on base PS4, it looked pretty good as well. Obviously not as good, but it still looked good. Mass Effect 2 looked pretty fantastic as well. I definitely could notice some quality of life improvements on there, so that was really good to see. And Mass Effect 3 looked fairly good as well. Not as good as Mass Effect 1, especially, and Mass Effect 2. It is kind of the most new of the three of them. I know they didn't work as much on Mass Effect 3 as the other two. But kind of do keep that in mind. It still looked good though, may that be known. But yeah, Mass Effect 3 I think is actually gonna strangely enough look the worst out of the three of them, but still good nonetheless. So for the PS5 streamer, they're saying that they haven't encountered really no issues so far, no stuttering, anything like that. They really expected that experience to kind of go throughout their whole playtime through all three games, which makes sense. They did kind of say that that experience might not be the same on the older consoles, but on Xbox Series X, there shouldn't be any issues with them, especially at 120 frames per second, which is pretty cool, to be honest. Yeah, but they also said for the older consoles that they do have the kind of the options of either going for resolution or frame rate, so that should hopefully kind of help out the older kind of consoles still have everything look good and run well. Up on the screen is actually my quick conversation with the streamer that was playing on the base PS4. Their games still look pretty good. However, once again, it is on a base PS4. So if you are on PC, PS4 Pro, Xbox Series X, or what have you, the game is going to look better than what you see on the screen and kind of what they're saying. I think that they are probably having the worst experience besides, I guess, like base model Xbox Ones. So do once again kind of keep that in mind. But in general, they seem fairly impressed. They were actually defending the game in the stream because some people were like, "Oh, like this doesn't look that good," and they're like, "Well, the stream's not that." Is that 720? Keep that in mind. And actually, yeah, all three games look much better. Do keep that in mind. But I really recommend if you are on the fence with it, I do recommend checking out the streams. If you can, talk to the streamers, kind of get their opinion on it. But it is kind of cool that that is all up now before release. So hopefully that can kind of help influence whether or not you actually want to pick up Mass Effect Legendary Edition. If you are new to the Mass Effect franchise, now is a great time to hop in. I mean, you have all three games ready to go, all DLC for the most part, all there with some awesome visual improvements and gameplay improvements as well. And I gotta say, the Mass Effect franchise is one of my favorite game series that have ever come out. So I personally highly recommend it. I really tell anyone who can and who's interested in any sort of sci-fi RPG genres, definitely give the Mass Effect trilogy a try if you haven't already. That being said, I do think that potentially you should wait or hold off on buying the game, kind of depending on what you're playing on. If you're playing on consoles, especially if you're playing on PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5, it makes sense to kind of pick it up. All three games are there with all the DLC bar one, and there's really no other way to kind of play the games. There's no real backwards compatibility with that, so kind of makes sense. Especially if you're on PS5, the game is more than likely going to run really well. I'd recommend if you have PS5, probably just pick it up as soon as you want, as soon as you're comfortable with it. From what I could tell, looked really well. Looked like it was playing extremely well and with no stuttering, anything like that. I think PlayStation 5, for the most part, is a pretty safe bet. If you're on a PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 4 Pro, it might be worth kind of waiting a little bit, especially if you're on the base PS4. I know I kind of saw the gameplay on there already. I still would recommend maybe kind of waiting a little bit or watch some streams yourself just to kind of make sure that it's to the quality that you are looking for. I think PlayStation 4 Pro users don't have to worry as much, and to be honest with you, that's what I'm going to be playing on for my streams. But for base PS4, you might, like I said, you might want to wait. Kind of depending. At the very least, watch some streams if you aren't going to wait for impressions or reviews. Just kind of get a good handle on whether or not you want to pick up the game. For Xbox, it's actually fairly similar. If you have an Xbox Series X, I don't think you have really anything to worry about. The game's going to run, very well for you, more than likely. I mean, 120 frames per second is pretty cool. If you have an Xbox Series X Xbox One X or an Xbox Series S, you're in a very similar boat as the PlayStation 4 Pro users. You might want to kind of wait a little bit, kind of check out the streams, get some impressions before kind of hopping into it, just to make sure that the game is running well. It's not going to be broken at launch. That'd be my recommendation. I'll be honest, the console that I am most worried about when it comes to Mass Effect Legendary Edition is the base model Xbox One. We haven't seen any gameplay. We haven't seen it run. I haven't seen any streams of it quite yet. So I'd say if you have an Xbox One, it might be worth kind of waiting a little bit to make sure it's going to run well on the console. I kind of remember when Cyberpunk came out, it was pretty rough on there. Same thing for the PlayStation 4. Obviously, there's kind of a broken game at launch. I don't want you guys to have a similar experience with Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as bad of a launch as Cyberpunk, anywhere close, to be honest with you. But to just kind of be safe, that's kind of my recommendation as of now. Once the game's out, you can kind of watch some streams, get some impressions, kind of form your own opinion with that. I think more than likely it's going to be okay. But for me, it would be a wait if I had a base model Xbox One. All right, so moving on over to PC. PC is kind of a different beast altogether, to be honest with you. Once again, this is for people who are new to the franchise, looking to pick it up, not those who already either have it on PC or have played it before. So kind of keep that in mind. So I actually kind of went through and looked at the current options where you could kind of pick up all 3 games with all DLC right now. On Origin, it was $70. If you just actually want to buy everything on there, not the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I'm talking the original games and all the DLC. And then on Steam, it was like $110. So definitely don't do Steam if you're thinking about doing that. I think there is an argument that could be had if you are into modding or willing to get into modding for not picking up the Legendary Edition. If you're willing to, you are going to be putting in some work to get to get the game to look anywhere close to the Legendary Edition. So do keep that in mind. I do think the argument's there. You're going to have more mods, especially compared to Legendary Edition at launch. I guess some modders have said that they are going to port their mods over to Legendary Edition, but modders kind of come and go. So if there's a really old mod that is very popular, but that modder is no longer in the modding game, it's probably not going to get ported over. More than likely, that can change. Sometimes people can kind of port stuff with the original owner's permission, but do keep that in mind. Kind of nice thing for PC users as well, if you are very much on the fence, there is the EA Play Pro option. That's $15, and that's actually going to let you play the Mass Effect Legendary Edition for a month. For $15, you can give it a shot. You can give it a go. If you like it, you can pick it up. I think you actually get a discount if you buy it. Don't quote me on that. And if you don't like it, hey, you're out $15 instead of 60. You're good to go. I feel dirty kind of bringing up EA Play Pro, to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of EA as a company, but from a cost-effective standpoint, that does seem like a fairly decent option. So I do kind of want to throw it out there. And as a quick note, and this is kind of really any PC game, if you are unsure about your rig, it's like a mid-grade rig or low-end rig, what have you, or you're playing on a laptop, definitely do can my computer run it for the game? It'll kind of bring up the minimum specs, the recommended specs, what have you. It's kind of a good tool. It's actually how I found it out. I needed to update my CPU, which is going to end up costing a lot of money. So it's kind of why I'm playing on PS4 Pro, not PC, which I'm kind of bummed about. But I did kind of want to throw that out there. If you are wondering if your PC can run it and how well it would run it, definitely give that a go. I definitely take a look at that. If you're at minimum specs and not quite recommended, an argument could be made to wait or potentially not pick it up. Kind of up to you and kind of what your computer can handle. So do keep that in mind. All right, so we're finally to my fellow longtime Mass Effect fans. If you have a current gen console, so PS5, Xbox Series X, as well as I dare say Xbox Series S, I don't think you're at too much risk of picking this game up day one. If you're like me, you're really excited, looking for an excuse to get back into it, might as well do it. Let's be honest. If you want to rate for impressions, reviews, watch some streams, by all means, go ahead and do it. But I dare say, for those consoles I listed, you guys have kind of the safest bet that everything's going to kind of run very smoothly and run well. Kind of based on what I saw on stream and just kind of the specs and resolution that BioWare threw out, I have a feeling you don't have a whole lot to worry about, which is really good to hear. If you have the base model consoles, it might be worth waiting. I really hate to say it. I know I don't want to say it, especially to my fellow longtime Mass Effect fans. But it might be worth waiting. As I kind of said before, on especially the base model Xbox One. I personally would definitely wait for some reviews, something to kind of make sure it's working well on there. If you have base model PS4, definitely check out some of the streams that are on there. You kind of have the luxury of being able to do that. I think you're a little bit more safe based on what I've seen, but still, it might be worth kind of waiting, getting some impressions, watching some streams, or even waiting for reviews. All right, last but certainly not least, my Mass Effect fans on PC. If you already own all three games and DLC and you're willing to mod, I'm going to tell you to pass this up. There's really no reason to buy the Legendary Edition then. You can get many of the same improvements as the Mass Effect Legendary Edition just through mods. Yes, you have to do more work, but you're actually going to have some more options, some more freedom with that. At the very least, especially if you already purchased everything, it might be worth just kind of waiting a few months for more of the mods to get ported over to Legendary Edition and then picking it up like in a sale or something. That's my recommendation. If I was in that boat, I probably would just be, waving by, waving as the Mass Effect Legendary Edition boat kind of goes by. That's kind of me personally. I like modding. I'm into that. Especially if you already bought everything, like you already have everything that's there, so why pay another $60? If you aren't willing to mod and you already have everything, to be fair, there have been some really great improvements that BioWare have done, especially Mass Effect 1. Everything looks really great. They've really cleaned up that game. I know on PC, it did not run very well, but to be fair, it really didn't run well on any console or really any platform at launch. But in general, it might be worth picking it up. If you do pick it up, pick up the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Check out mods. Modding is really not that scary. I'm a really big proponent of it. May that be known. Pick it up then if you're looking to get back into the game, looking for that excuse. Some good gameplay mechanics have popped up. There is a good reason to buy. There is some justification, I dare say, that is there to pick up the game, even if you already own everything on PC, if you aren't willing to mod. But if you do, check out Nexus Mods like a week or two after the game comes out. Give it a shot. It's not that scary. I promise you, I'm not that smart. And even I can figure out mods. I believe in you. All that being said, if you are looking to get it on PC, you had it on like 360 or PS3 back in the day, and you don't own it on PC yet, then yeah, I would actually recommend staying in this bad boy for PC. Once again, you want to wait for reviews, streams, go ahead and do that, especially if you have a very nice rig, something that's more up to date than what I have. Yeah, I think you're probably in a pretty good boat. You're not going to be able to find everything that's in the same package as the Mass Effect Legendary Edition for a better price. So, that's something to definitely keep in mind. And once again, I hate saying it, EA Play Pro, $15. You can give it a shot. You can get it a little bit cheaper, hopefully. If you do want to just kind of buy it outright, if you have EA Play Pro, kind of a decent option for you to give it a shot. You can play it at launch. If you don't like it, you're out $15. Sorry, but hey, you also have access to a bunch of other games. Otherwise, if you like it, hey, there you go. You're able to play it for a decent price. And yeah, I once again do think that you are able to get it for a cheaper price. Don't quote me on that though. All right, so too long, didn't watch the whole video. So in summation here, if you have an Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, or a high-end PC, I think this is a fairly safe day one purchase if you want to. Of course, fantastic story, fantastic gameplay, great characters. Just Mass Effect Trilogy in a general sense is fantastic. I think you're going to be safe. The only thing that we are kind of unsure on is from a technical standpoint, and if you have a beefy machine or beefy console, you don't really have to worry about that. If you have a mid-range console or mid-range PC, I think once again you're going to be okay. It might be worth kind of waiting a day or two just to make sure everything is good, make sure there aren't any crazy bugs that could affect you, kind of go from there. Otherwise, safe purchase once again. If you have a base model PS4 or base model Xbox One, I would definitely maybe wait a little bit. especially if you have a base model Xbox One, just making sure everything is playing well, making sure there's no technical issues with the game. That'd be my recommendation, is kind of waiting and kind of seeing there. In a general sense, I would say wait a day or two, make sure everything's good. If everything is, pick up the game. I don't think they're going to have major technical issues at launch. If there are, I think it's going to be something fairly small that they can kind of hot fix or fix real quick, and it's going to be kind of resolved in a day or two. In my opinion, that is 110% my opinion. Kind of keep that in mind. And once again, if you're on PC, you do kind of have a decent, cheaper alternative where you can play the 15 bucks, give it a go for like a month. If you want to purchase it, you can. If you don't, you're good with the game. Hey, you spend 50 bucks, not 60. Kind of a good way to kind of go about it. All right, that is it. If you found this video to be helpful, please hit that like button, and down in the comments below, let me know what platform you are going to be playing the Mass Effect Legendary Edition on, and are you excited to pick the game up? Let me know down there. I do want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. It does mean a lot for me. If you want to see more content like this going forward, I do have some more Mass Effect videos for this week, and I will be streaming it over on Twitch. Link in the description down below, but please subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. I do want to say once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Do something good for yourself, and as always, take care.